in the ranks about the way the Department of Defense and the Secretary had approached this issue. So I think your point is well taken. I also think it's important to note that the President wants to put the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs in some role here. The Chairman of the Joint Chiefs is not in the chain of command. If the President wants to utilize the military to support law enforcement, there are mechanisms to do so. And the way the President was going about it was entirely wrong, inappropriate, and at odds with our constitutional tradition. So the Secretary of Defense really was out there, and he needed to get back to the core of our national security tradition in our country.
Jeremy Bash, you invoked the title Chairman of the Joint Chiefs. While we're at it, let's talk about General Mark Milley, because there he was, looking for all the world like Schwarzkopf back from the Gulf War, in BDU camo, 4 stars on his hat, 4 stars down the front of his uniform. Rachel Maddow last night showed some of the video of him walking around the streets of Washington later that night, looking for all the world like a viceroy reviewing the troops. And he will forever be in that still photo, in that video of the President walking across Pennsylvania Avenue over to St. John's in his camo uniform, having gone along with this himself. And here he was indeed that night walking around Northwest Washington.
One of the things to note, just again from the perspective of someone who served in the department and served alongside these military leaders, is where their troops are, they like to be. So if their troops are out there helping on coronavirus established medical hospitals, or if their troops are out there providing support to law enforcement when our streets are on fire, they want to be out there. They want to be showing camaraderie with the troops, bucking them up, showing support. But I think you're right. In hindsight, it's entirely the wrong signal. It made it seem as if the streets of Washington, D.C., and the streets of America were some foreign battle zone. And again, to go back to something else that's, I think, been very poignantly described in the news over the last 24 hours, former intelligence officials who have served overseas and seen the way leaders of countries have invoked the military and donned military uniforms and tried to become, in essence, sort of a military-led country. Those are some of the weakest countries out there. Those are some of the most insecure leaders out there. The countries with the weakest institutions, the weakest democratic values, the countries that frankly turn to us and say, hey, America, can you help me? Because they don't have what it takes to be strong and stable. And so it needs to be part of our tradition. Going forward, again and again, reminded to all the people in the chain of command that we are not a military-led country, we are a civilian-led country. And when military wants to show support to their people who are out there doing some important missions, there are other more appropriate ways to do so.
So, Jeremy, when you hear today, for example, that Kayleigh McEnany in a hurling shiny object compares Trump's walk over to the church to Winston Churchill in the post-Blitz streets of London, to George W. Bush throwing out the first pitch after 9/11, I am assuming, Jeremy, those comparisons don't work for you.
No, because, Brian, here's the thing. Churchill went up against Nazism, and George Bush was confronting Al-Qaeda and jihadi terrorism. And what Donald Trump is confronting and looking at as he surveys his city is a concerned nation, a nation on bended knee, a nation with a tear streaking down its cheek because of inequity, because of injustice, because of malfeasance by few, symbolizing 400 years of racism and the original sin of our country. And the proper response, protest, is part of the American tradition. This is not Nazism, this is not terrorism, this is Americanism. And if the President of the United States cannot understand that, and if Kayleigh McEnany or President's spokespeople or his cabinet don't understand, they don't deserve to be in office, because they don't understand what it means to be an American.
That's right.
I just want to let that sink in for a minute, Jeremy Bash. I needed to hear that. I want to reset the breaking news, though, that